Are you awake, Nate?
I am.
Okay, just checking.
I am.
Wanted to make sure. We talked last week about approving our meeting minutes in a different way, and we were gonna hold off and vote on that today, so before we do approve the meeting minutes, we should vote on that, and that was so that we could, look at them online in a written form first. I did go on that webinar for all of like how to do the meetings and everything, so, I'm looking to take a vote on that today, so.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I know I told you I would look at those.
You never looked.
I have been tapped bandwidth
It's okay.
wise, and
It's okay.
I did not look at those.
It's okay, I can talk to Mike afterwards, the ones for this coming meeting, are probably more than we need, they can't be verbatim, they're not supposed to be verbatim. So we've gotta condense them after the meeting, so we still have time to fix those from the last meeting. But can we take a vote to say that that's how we'll do it from now on? That way we don't have to actually review them, we can look at them online, everybody's looked at them, and then at the meeting, we just take a vote to approve the minutes without having to read them.
I don't think you really need a vote,
Oh, okay,
so all the other boards do it.
okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
alright,
That's one thing that's kinda outside of the open meeting law, you can talk about scheduling a meeting
Okay.
and send the minutes back and forth.
okay, alright,
Or you could never schedule a meeting or do minutes, that's why they do that.
gotcha. So I think we're gonna, until Mike and I get a chance to just talk about how to condense those meetings minutes, cause, there's no punctuation really in them and stuff, so I think we need to look at that real quick. We're gonna just move forward, so a couple things I just wanted to go over, cause I did go on that webinar, which was very informative for me, since this is the first time I've done this. I do wanna mention that I do think we should make sure that when someone's talking or is talking, that there's no crosstalk going on or other people are having side conversations. I think that's really important, because I think what we're doing is important, so I do wanna make sure that that's not happening and we're giving our undivided attention to the person that is talking. I think that was the biggest thing, I think, the last time we met, that was happening when he was talking, and, you know, I will definitely have more control over the meetings, if we have visitors again. So, but I do think what he had to say was very informative, so, but those were just my notes that I wanted to just mention. I was hoping, Nate, what I printed out was the long range, facility plans from 2015.
Mhm.
So before we get into all of the like reviewing the details, I did wanna, there's a couple of things in there that I think are important, and I don't know if everyone else does, but is there a way for you to pull those up for us to look at real quick? I don't know if anybody's actually read any of the stuff that's on our drive.
Carrie, I have, but it's actually been months.
So I
Madam
refreshed
Chair.
myself this morning.
Just for the good of the order, there is a library trustees meeting right on our tail.
Okay,
So
yep,
we have
well,
about 50 minutes.
That's fine, 'cause
from
I-
5 minutes ago.
yeah, that's fine. We'll go through this quickly. It's just a couple things I wanted to
Yeah.
point out in relation to us making our next set of plans.
Which would you like opened first?
So the long-range facility plan from 2015, and if I can remember the pages right, it's page, if you can scroll down, Nate, I can,
Yeah, I'm finding it right now.
What is it we're discussing?
long-range facility plan from 2015.
I'm gonna sit over there so I can see.
Okay. you were chief when they did this plan? In 2015?
Yes.
Okay. So if you go down to, I think it's listed on there as page 2. That's page 2, Nate.
Yep.
So let's go down then. It talks about the town's, demographics and whatnot, there we are. So the only reason I wanted to bring this up was that this particular report in 2015 says that our population's growing, continued population growth in the central region over the next several decades is anticipated, total growth is projected to be 9.5 over 20 years. But at the time this was done, there was 4,514 from the census, and we have now what?
Less.
So I'm just
Yeah.
cause we've talked about this a couple of times, so I'm just pointing that out.
Oddly enough, it depends who you ask. Some people are saying close to 47, 48, and the official census, I believe, said something around 4,300. So, but maybe Hubbardston would be the place if there was ever 500 people that were gonna hide from the census.
No, it's true, because I was reading their surveys and that was kind of
They don't need to know my
silly,
address.
but, so, and we've all talked about here and there throughout our meetings about the growth and looking at the growth, and there are a couple other things in this that talk about what is required if a town has so many people, so I think that's important too. Like-
Madam Chair,
Yes.
couple of things to follow up on what Nate just said and these different numbers. I think the chair of the select board at the volunteer appreciation quoted a number just under 4,300,
Yeah.
42 something, I think he mentioned. That's
Yeah.
purely off of memory. The other thing regarding growth, as I attend several other town related meetings, not annual town meetings, although I attend those too, the Open Space and Conservation Commission, you can glean, and Planning Board, you can glean a lot about potential growth. And I don't know how these projections are made, but if you look at the amount of protected land, the land that still gets protected, and some of the more challenging development criteria that are being applied, one that I just learned of in the last 30 days is the Ware River watershed is now some kind of water, it is now got a higher level of protection and criteria that are applied to it. So the one thing is we know where there is continued less potential house lots as we go on, because everyone that gets developed is one that can't be developed in the
Right,
future.
right.
So I believe we should plan for growth, but we need to really look at that and not go overboard.
Right,
Keep in mind that our growth is slowing. Is that what I heard you say, Nate, basically?
Yeah.
And it'll slow more unless we radically change our approach to subdivisions and multifamily units and apartments and that sort of thing.
right.
I'm also
Thank you.
hesitant to 100% believe a census that went on during the global pandemic. So maybe next time it'll look like it jumped real high.
And
but
this is why I thought it was important, so if you go down more, to where it starts to talk about, their buildings, both chiefs' buildings, and the information that this committee got regarding, what's required.
the Slade building replacement.
Yeah, I
Slade
keep going,
building
so the,
department
it
replacement.
has fire station 1, then,
That's a lie. That building is great.
the police.
The fire.
But I think if you, It might be towards the the down, Nate, like way towards the bottom almost.
Department reports of existing
So this is what, this is what they talked to the, people who are running these buildings about, so some of what's there is what we have been talking about here anyway.
Here's the one for the
so-
PD.
Right, and the chief's not here at the time, it was, Perrin, so we'll wait till.
I think they're up more about double those numbers. No? Those are rookie numbers.
Which numbers are we talking about?
Well, let's start with the 4 full-time firefighters, where are you at? with
We
the-
have 5 now.
Okay.
I was talking about 500 fire rescue and EMS calls.
Yeah, we're close to, on pace for 800 this year.
Yeah,
That just means they're busier.
right, I just was, so, I think for us, this part's important to read on our own for now. You can skip by everything else, but if we read those parts, but then Nate, down more, it talks about what the committee found out in their research regarding, like, if you have so many residents, like the police station has to have a secure lockup area, or has
Right.
to have, so I think if we're gonna do some of this today, it might be important for us to see some of these numbers.
Absolutely, yeah. If there's regulatory compliance things.
And 2015, I'm not sure they would have changed that much, or have addendums to those.
Massachusetts regulations require that a town having a population greater than 5,000 have a secure lockup.
Well, there it is.
This is page 10.
This also talks about the evidence chain, which I don't believe they have currently, and again, I know we're not at that, but, and then I think there's some fire as well.
Yeah.
And so from 2015 to now, none of this has changed or gotten any different, or, I mean, the research we've done is showing
Lack of ease of accessibility, lack of necessary features, lack of floor structural support for apparatus.
I turned my head, you're on the fire now.
Yeah, failing overhead doors. No exhaust system.
So what's been fixed since that?
The exhaust system.
Okay.
Is one now. Which is more valuable than the building that it's in.
Yep. And the national NFPA standard for firefighters per capita is 1.54 per 100,000.
1.5
Yep.
per
it was updated in 2018 to 1.58.
What was your last year's heating oil number, chief?
I don't know what it ended up. We budgeted for
Can we slow down just
Oh, sorry.
I'm trying to keep up, I'm trying to get his numbers at first.
In F
What, what did you say?
It's 1.54 in 2015 and 1.58 in 2018.
And that's firefighters per 100K population?
Per 1,000 population.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
So if we were at 4,300,
Why don't we calculate it for 5,000?
Just
Seems
to,
like we're-
yes,
Alright.
yeah,
We're kinda
Keep,
Yeah.
keep the numbers the same?
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Cause we're not at 5,000, but at 5,000, we're gonna have to do a couple of
So
things for the
7.9, so 8.
8.
Yeah, and that would give you 24 hours a day,
right,
and that's what we need.
right.
You know, that's where we're getting.
That was, so 8 firefighters in 2015 or 8
In
firefighters?
18.
Per
2018.
population,
Per
5,000.
Of
Okay.
5,000.
Yeah.
Yep.
And these are full-time
These would be
firefighters?
full-time, Yep. Yep.
There was double the amount of firefighters in 2018?
No, this.
Oh,
the
this
national
was, okay, I thought
This
so,
is
when
the
he said
standard,
2018,
yeah.
I thought that's what we were talking
Yeah,
about.
so if you wanna project
Yeah.
where we should be as far as staffing in the future, as far as combination for 24-hour staffing, you know, these are the numbers you really need to drive those. You know, it's a national standard, people can look back at it and say, yeah, this is what we used, and
And we were talking about, where are you at, Mike? Talking about the heating, right?
Yeah, cause this is saying $9,000 10 years ago. No, you're above that now.
Okay.
They did do some, insulating
Yeah.
with an energy audit there a couple years ago, which helped out, but we budget around 5,000 each year. I don't know what it was last year. I don't believe we went over budget on it though, so.
One of the biggest things that was interesting when I went through this report again was that one of the first things it says is
Hold on
The-
just a second. Was that 5,000 just for the fire station building or the combined?
Just for Station 1 at the center.
Sorry.
and you don't have to write this down, Mike, so, that the town lacked keeping up with all of these buildings, which is one of the reasons this happened, so that's another consideration, and if you're gonna do something like this, the town has to be able to keep up with what is,
yeah.
otherwise we'll be in the same situation
Probably
again.
fund maintenance and.
Yeah.
We'll be just like the MBTA.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just, thought that was a good way to start, to focus on the next parts of what we should go over tonight. Mike, you gotta,
No, I'm
Okay.
reading and listening and, yeah, interesting.
it was very interesting to reread. When Nate first sent them, I read through it, but I was like, at the time, we weren't fully involved in this, and when I reread it tonight, so, did you ever call to get, if they were to redesign the plans?
That's what I was hoping to talk about.
So let's do
especially
that
whereas
next.
we
Okay.
have a limited amount of time. So we all more or less, well, let me stop sharing my screen. So let me preface this by saying I understand that the holiday season is a bad time to have a conversation about choosing a direction and sticking to it. But we all know the issues that face the town in terms of the buildings and the inefficiencies that they present. I was hoping that this meeting we would be able to determine a short-range goal to stay on track, just because I feel like at the first couple meetings there was just gas in the tank, and then it kind of went, we're probably not gonna do that anyway, and rats. So I know my own short-range goal would be to either at this upcoming annual town meeting or the special town meeting in the fall, seek some sort of funding for physical actual plans. It's a good step, and it gets us to somewhere where then we kind of have our own chips to bid,
Yep.
instead of right now, whereas it's been a pipe dream. Additionally, when I talked to Carrie earlier this week about moving forward on ARPA funds, I got another bill from MassDOT. So I've been kind of reevaluating ways to use the ARPA funds to cover existing commitments while maintaining money in there. So the Public Safety Building Committee had about $60,000 a couple weeks ago. After talking to Carrie, my proposal was going to be, hey, what would we really do with $60,000 right now anyway? And to take 10 of that and put it away, cause we wouldn't need it, and use it for another issue. Then I got a $20,000 bill last week that I've yet to really crack open. So after all is said and done, we're probably gonna end up with about $35,000. So we have between $30,000 and $35,000 to spend on something. I'm not a public safety professional, so I don't know the pricing of those sort of issues, those sort of projects, so it's something we can look into. But I'd also like to see us kind of set where this is going, to fall back on track, be able to set short-term goals, be able to actually dig in and look for what we want, what we need, and pursuing those goals. That's it. That's.
Anyone, Seth? You were kind of shaking your head, yes.
Well, this is a procurement issue. If it's 35,000, now you're under 50. I mean, you don't do a formal bid, you can basically just get some quotes and, you know, and if this can fall into engineering, engineering is exempt, so, you know.
RFP.
I don't think you need to do an RFP at all for this.
No.
You know, this is clear, this is, you know, because it's under the threshold dollar wise. That way, if we wanna go back to the original architect that drew up this and say, hey, we wanna come back, have a conversation and modify the design, you know, they can go back in their record and say, all right, this is what we had, and we can have a conversation. We wanna shrink it down, make the building more cost, you know.
I don't think that's gonna touch
No,
35
I don't either.
at all.
Nope, I don't think it will either.
That, I can make that call.
So, I mean, I think the goal would be for January to either have made contact with the previous
Yes.
one and see if they're willing to come in. If not, then we have to look at some other
Right.
Perspective and
Right, which
then
is
have a
what-
meeting with them in February. That would be the goal.
That makes the most sense, is to go back to the original people who did that.
Yep.
I will call them tomorrow.
Okay. In that case, we really should have here's what we would like to see.
Yep.
Right. Yep.
We would need to meet with them, like,
Yeah.
cause on top of the last time being a lot, it was also very flashy, which I think did not play.
Nope.
Right.
Like,
I
It was
mean,
a
the
Taj Mahal, I
exterior-
believe was the
Yeah.
term.
Yeah.
The exterior, changing the exterior alone is gonna save
Yeah.
probably close to $1 million.
I mean, my recollection of it, I haven't gone over the plans either since, the summer when they were out there. The, outside of that was just their conceptual design. It's not something we requested.
Right.
We weren't even focused on the outside.
Yeah.
So I know there is a drawing of
Yeah.
parking lot view, the tree, that was them just doing that. That's not something the committee at that time was requesting. We were just focused on what was inside and how it would
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So the outside of it being all glass, I think I remember, and all that, like, that's not what the committee, that was just, hey, this is what it may look like, guys. What you have inside, this is what it might look on the outside. That wasn't requested from my recollection of it from the committee that
Yeah.
time, so.
I mean, that long-range facilities plan did have an estimated amount in 2015 of 7.5 million. That was in 2015.
Double it.
Yeah.
Plus some.
So I honestly
For a
don't
small
think we're
building.
gonna get a huge difference from what was originally brought forward. We'll probably get less of an exterior for the same amount of money at this point. Right, I mean,
Like, I don't know too, it got confusing too, because there's different designs. It was the public safety building,
Yes.
then it was everything all together. That outside building one, I believe, is the vision of
All of it.
everybody together.
yeah,
And I thought that one was over. I thought that was like a $12 million, $14 million building at
yeah,
that point.
yeah,
But that was everything.
yeah,
Well, maybe not library, senior center, town offices, fire, police.
okay.
I think we call it a community center at that point.
Yeah.
Big campus approach.
Which is not a bad thing.
Right.
So given what Nate said, our short-term goal at this point would be in January at the town meeting,
The town meeting is in
It's
June.
June. Didn't you say there was something in spring when we were on the
Yeah,
phone?
late
Okay.
spring, June,
Okay,
like,
Yeah. I mean, you could have something for the warrant.
yeah, we would have to
Close it.
have something kind of
Early.
ready to rip by the first week of April.
Yeah.
And then there would need to be, kind of driven by this committee and friends of this committee, some sort of campaign.
Yep.
If at any point between now and then I bring up any sort of votes about any sort of operations deficit or anything like that, which I'm hoping not to have to, but you never know, I would take it off the table
Right.
completely, that'd
Yeah.
yeah,
be.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Right now, my budget and any sort of deficit is 100% based on where the school comes in.
Right.
If the school comes in at 5.3 or lower, I can balance it, and it's not beautiful, but it's balanced. Anywhere over that, you create more and more of a deficit that'll have to be found.
yeah,
I wouldn't hold my breath.
We're budgeting 8 for the school.
8%.
8%.
That's what
For
I'm,
us,
that's
yeah.
what I'm budgeting
For
as
what you're
well,
saying,
but
yeah.
for the fun of it, I went and made budgets for each individual percentage point, just so when I was talking to the superintendent, I could say, well, did you know at 4.5, we could do all these things, like, but
alright, so you're gonna call
Mhm.
and ask them,
what they suggest,
I think that's the best thing to do is, what would they suggest, we wanna reevaluate the plans,
That's the previous company.
yeah, what they suggest and what something like that would cost.
yeah,
And do you think they'd do that gratis?
Yeah, no.
Well, there's a.
Fairly affordably, I wouldn't say cheap, but
Yeah.
affordably.
Well, architect and engineers are notorious for eating up
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of funding up front.
Yep.
Another approach that could even go concurrently, because we don't have to commit to them, we're just asking now, is to find out some of the most recent buildings that have been built, find out what their final cost was, get their square footage. I mean, this is how they are gonna do it,
right,
more or less.
right.
Because they're specialists in this area, so they're gonna be able to get that information fairly easily. Actually, we can get it through them under, because these are all things done under a public
Oh, right, yeah,
umbrella
yeah.
anyhow.
Public
But we can
officials.
go to a
Yeah.
town or a city and go, okay, what were your numbers? And I think we can do that simple math, You gotta be careful about knowing what square footage is in or out and whatnot, but you can get it in the ballpark. And if we're able to get that, information, then I will look at them, having done this before, and try to come up with a range of a square footage cost, so we can just kinda do it and get a back of the envelope kinda number to guide us in our thinking and our decision-making. And even if somebody knows, cause I've just been back here recently, what local towns have done this in the last 2 to 3 years. I think one of the ones we visited was relatively new, right?
Are you talking about Ashby?
Wasn't Ashby really
Right,
recent?
right.
The difference between what our cost would be and what their cost would be was that they had a pre-existing building.
Right.
Well,
Right.
but the new 4-bay or 3-bay, whatever they did, that's gonna be what it is, and
Yeah.
that should be broken out. We should be able to see the breakdown of the construction estimate that they used to build that facility and their, government estimate. We should be able to get that information. Granted, that's why you gotta have someone that's been familiar with this stuff, to make sure that we're not taking wrong numbers and wrong square footages and applying them inappropriately.
This information will be good when we get to the point of talking publicly about the process we went
Mhm.
through and so forth, and say, look, it costs this town this much per square foot, costs that town that much per square foot in these years.
Mm-hmm.
Here's ours per square foot adjusted for inflation. And then there's really nothing then it's just yes, we want a building, or no, we don't want a building,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Because going back to feasibility, if this isn't the year that we need to take a shot at an override, this might be the best opportunity to go for something like plans, because someday we're gonna have to go for the override likely,
Mhm.
or because unless something changes, I'm kinda knocking on wood and hoping that it just figures itself out, like the state changes the formula at the school, but if it doesn't end up being this year that where we have to go and take a swing at fixing the operating budget, then this might be one of the better years to try for a debt exclusion for, say, just use round numbers, $1 million for actual
Plans.
plans.
This year as in fiscal year 24?
Yeah,
Or-
heading into fiscal year 25, it would be part of the FY 25
Okay,
budget,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so
part of-
Northbridge is in the middle of a fire station build project right now. It went out to bid in 21, and their proposed was $679 per square foot.
So we'll just say 700.
Yeah. Yep.
And they
It's
have
in
that.
Northbridge.
Northbridge, yeah, and that's a fire station only. And that was 15,000 square feet.
Did Millbury put
No,
it
yeah,
in?
they're in the process as well.
Okay.
It's not built yet.
Okay.
I know that's going out soon as well.
Right. Can I float that other idea that we
Yep,
talked
go
about
for
this
it.
morning? So,
How much was that again?
this was a previous idea
$679.
that was brought to me yesterday. The select board has previously taken it off of the table, but this person has reached out to us and made an offer. Mr. Janssen on Gardner Road wants to know if this committee would like to take a tour of his property next week. He's only back for 7 days. And that was brought to me by somebody, and I told them that I would ask him.
So, my response was, I think it's important to do it for the sheer reason that we've done our due diligence.
Totally
Blah,
concur.
Blah, blah.
Doesn't mean we have to say
It does
yes.
not. I
Right.
also did tell Nate, though, one of the last times we talked, that I think it's important, I know we're getting into winter, but I've not ever walked the property that this building might go on, and I do think it's important that we go down and take a look at where it's been looked at, cause I also think we need to do our due diligence with that as well.
Which property is that?
Where, what I was just talking
Yeah.
about, where the building would go, where they have
Oh.
already done all of the excavating work and
The
With
whatnot.
current
towers.
proposal.
Yeah, yeah.
I think Jan's automotive or whatever they call that, about 5 acres. Does that sound right with that
I
property?
don't even remember at this point. I've only had
I
one
don't have
conversation
any-
with
I can look
Mr.
it up.
Johnson, and it was because the numbers that after we did a, what do you call those in real estate?
Appraisal?
Appraisal. I've been working a lot lately. After we did an appraisal, our numbers weren't lining up. So he was going to go and do work to the property, cause I believe the appraisal came in at 5 something, and he was looking for more like between 7 and 8. 500,000 versus 700 and something thousand. And like, yeah, I'm just gonna say it, like what he was proposing, we could never go as far to say like, yeah, just because of the hoops you have to jump through, the town meeting votes, that kind of thing. Like that gentleman is essentially looking for a rent to own deal. There would be prevailing wage benefits in that kind of situation, but we could never give enough of a commitment that then wouldn't be countered by the desire to sell a property while prices are high.
I also recall that we had a modular off-site construction, one town east of us, city.
Was it Lawrence?
Chelmsford. It'd be interesting to find, cause that's very recent, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Plus they're talking
Yeah.
about
Doing another
adding
one.
another
Yes.
module.
Right,
That's low-hanging fruit as far as information that we can hopefully gather easily. So we don't put the burden on an engineering study. It costs a lot and gives us limited additional information.
Yeah, we have a lot of information.
we do have a lot of information, so can we pull this all into focus a little bit probably and just say, okay, at this point, we've talked about some additional design plans, additional research to determine square footage, so I think we need to divvy up some of this stuff to see, because in January, you're talking about having some kind of a,
June.
no, you said in January for the next meeting, I think you were mentioning for us to have something ready, you mentioned January. Thought that's what
Next
what it was
meeting.
for,
Our
or did you?
next meeting will be in January.
Or
It's
did
gonna
you
be
mean to say
Christmas in-
June?
It's gonna be Christmas in 2 weeks, so. No. As long as we have a goal, and we're working towards our goal.
And the goal is to reach out to try and
Yep.
draw in this additional information.
Right, so
I'll take one of them. you know, if it's
realistically,
Chelmsford
when can
or-
you make that call, do you think?
or-
Tomorrow.
Okay,
They might not answer, but I'll leave them a message.
yeah, okay, that's fine, yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Or even Ashby, I mean, I don't know, I'll take on one location. You know, if you've already have great information on Chelmsford, then, you know, don't wanna reinvent the wheel, might be a nice introduction. You know, say, hey, this guy Mike Stahl's gonna call Ashby and try to get some
Yeah.
information. You know, that makes it a little easier for
so
me.
How much
are
was
we,
Templeton's? Do you know? How much was Templeton's police department?
No, I don't.
Cause that's as modular as they come,
Where's it located when they drive that way
right
up?
next to the brand new elementary school.
Yeah, but that was the original police station, I think yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't
I know
remember.
they did something with it, but I
Yeah,
don't
they
know
built
what
it,
it was.
they 100% built on it, if
Yeah.
if that's still the
Yeah.
original, cause that, the
Yep.
original one was borderline a trailer.
Yeah,
Like,
You mean like ours?
this is pretty nice. Like,
And then, so between Mike and Seth, you guys could maybe do some of the, maybe 4? I don't
Well,
wanna
we'll get
too
what we
carried
get,
away.
you
Okay.
know.
2.1.
as far as what?
Just as
Well,
far
yeah.
as getting the square footage
Oh, yeah.
costs, okay.
Yeah.
2017.
And this will be for the January meeting.
I'll do Chelmsford if you wanna do Ashby.
Yep.
yeah, they got real lucky, they did whatever they did to their police department and built an elementary school, all while the interest rates were really,
Oh,
really
yeah.
low.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, they,
Yeah, we're screwed.
I just found the Templeton numbers, it's 2.133
So that's an addition.
million in 2017,
Yeah.
the end of 2017.
Do you wanna pull up, so for January, this is where we're gonna get to, right? This is our goal, we're gonna figure out what those costs are. Can you call me in advance to let me know if you got them before that
Yeah.
January meeting, just to let me
Absolutely.
know what those, okay. So could you quickly pull up just those, the plans or the drawings? Cause I do think for the next meeting, everyone should take a look at these to what we have researched and gotten. Because we can't do anything if we can't give these people some of the changes we wanna make or what we need to get to.
This was everything. Everything second floor.
Yeah.
When on earth would we need that many dining tables? This is first floor. What did you wanna look at, Gary?
I just wanted everyone to see where to look for the plans and to be able
Yeah.
to look at these based upon what we've talked about, what some of the needs are based upon what the chiefs have said, so that we can go through and kind of look and maybe we can work off of one of these and kind of cross out what we don't need or make
Right.
smaller or,
Yep.
It's under previous docs and presentations in the shared drive.
And which document
Could you
is that?
send out a link?
Yeah.
That'd be easier.
Okay, good idea.
drawings, and there are three drawings there.
Yeah, 3 different options, let's call them.
Right, yes, yeah.
That just doesn't look like Hubbardston to me, or what our voters would approve.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about.
Yeah.
This is
that's-
not, I don't think that was any input from the committee. This was
Yeah.
just what they,
That sends
give
the
it a
wrong
face.
message to me.
Oh, yeah.
And I think,
Yeah.
it would send the wrong message to many of our
Don't need all that glass.
constituents, yeah. Yeah, we're not building an art museum.
exactly.
We're building a practical, functional
Or an office
building
park.
for emergency
Mm.
services.
Maybe town operations? Maybe?
Well, I think
You
that's
want
one
to
of the
rue the
things,
desk.
if you go, but if you do modular, it's easy
Mm.
to consider those things in the future to add on to something like that, so.
It's not even the desk, to be honest. I want a room with a full
Oh,
wall.
let's see, what was, okay, their contingency is,
I wanna take walks with me, cause I think I'm gonna fire them.
It's contingency.
well, for change
Change orders.
orders,
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
but I'm wondering if that's a reasonable percentage of the total. FFE, firefighting equipment?
No, that's, fixtures, that's like furniture.
Okay, the
Yes,
furnishings.
That's the furnishings.
Okay,
Yep.
the build out of
Yes.
furnishings,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's
All-
not.
all the
con-
equipment, all
So
offices,
that's,
chairs,
so
everything.
that's not construction cost, and that, in,
Yep,
wage determinations do not apply
correct,
to that,
correct.
okay?
Yep.
I
And there
think
shouldn't
I
be a
can-
lot of contingency, that's why the contingency number comes in before that.
I would rather, when we build something like this, that we take a stepped approach. Let's get the building
Yeah.
and the minimum viable building for police and fire. Not new desks, not new chairs, not new flags or whatever. There's nothing that says we can't bring this equipment here, over there. At some point in the future, we go again for a modernized furniture and stuff like that. Would bring that number down significantly.
These are different numbers than the first chart had a senior center in it.
Right, yeah,
Right.
Senior
Yeah.
center has no interest, they're interested in this whole building.
yes,
But-
yeah, yep.
And as I've told Claudia, if she gets to building the deck, they're staying here forever.
As it probably should be.
Yeah.
You know, that's a huge investment for,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep.
you know,
that was very short. Yeah. So-
alright, so we all have a plan for the next meeting.
Yep.
I will find a date that we will not have to cancel
Okay.
and get it out to you guys.
it'll snow.
Don't
Okay.
say
That's all right.
that. Do not say
No,
that.
that just fixed it, actually.
Heather, do you have anything for the good of the order before we get going?
No, I don't. I did send a message in the chat, Nate, just so you had it. So the first, one of the first documents we had looked at, just with the demographics, we might be able to get updated numbers and kind of steal stuff from the master plan update.
Yep.
Cause they would have looked at all those pieces, and then my only second thing, and I think I heard someone say it, is just, you know, if we're gonna be looking at specific documents, or if the plan is to be prepared to talk about specific documents, someone already mentioned it, but they're not always called what the title of the page is called on the saved, you know, folder.
Yep.
So whether we can just create, like we do the select board, you know, if our next agenda is January, whatever, a folder just of the materials for that one, because
Mhm.
otherwise, you know, we're spending the entire time looking around trying to find the documents, and
Yeah.
I'd love to be prepared, but I just need to know what to look at.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Heather, I have an answer for that. We're waiting on updated numbers because when you take 8 years to do your master plan, you kind of fall between censuses.
No.
So they used the numbers pre-2020 and now have to update them.
And that's fine, but I mean,
Yeah.
they'll probably still have that updated sooner rather than
Yep.
later.
Hopefully.
You're requiring that.
Yeah. I have good feelings about this consultant that we're working with from the MRPC. I'm on my 3rd MRPC consultant since I started.
So we'll adjourn the meeting,
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.